record here. There we go. All right, so welcome. This is the January 2022 installment of the Microsoft Data Platform Continuity Virtual Group. This month, we have a very exciting session, if you're a geek like I am, on running Microsoft SQL Server on Amazon RDS with a wonderful speaker named Gene Joseph. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you.
Thank you so much, David, for the opportunity. And then thank you to all attendees. Let me share my screen and let me know if you're able to see my screen. I'm sharing my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
It is trying. There we go. Looks great.
Which one you're able to see?
I see a title slide with a QR code.
Perfect. Is it the full screen?
It is full screen.
Okay, perfect. So great, guys. Welcome to Microsoft Data Platform Community Virtual User Group. As you guys already know, our agenda for today is running SQL Server on Amazon RDS services. Who am I? I am Jean-Joseph. I've been in IT for over 18 years. I started as a network administrator. Then I moved to database administration and development. After that, I moved on to data engineering. I am the founder and main organizer of a data-driven community. Under data-driven community, we have a cloud data-driven that is focused on data management and analytic. And we have feature data-driven that's focused on the feature or the growth of artificial intelligence. And then we have IT management leadership that is focused on improving people management and leadership skills. So I have seen a tons of technical people, after they get promoted, their performance dropped because they didn't have enough to soft skill to maintain or manage people. So we have this group to support this category of people. If you guys want, for example, to email me, this is my email. We can keep contact. If you want to follow me on Twitter, and these are the two hash, you can follow me. I am currently located in New Jersey and originally from Haiti. So guys, let's go and, for example, with the presentation. So this is our overview. I'm gonna introduce, for example, RDS, and also I will introduce the architecture when it comes to availability, and also I will make you understand what kind of services they are offering and give you all kind of key takeaways. When it comes, for example, to relational database services, which is offering by Amazon, there's a tons of services like SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, MariaDB, and then there's another version, as you guys can see here, which is, for example, Aurora. Aurora, MySQL, and Postgres, they are, for example, AWS Cloud Citizen. You will never find that outside. That doesn't mean if you take a backup of a schema, you cannot restore it from a MySQL, but they are typically AWS Cloud Citizen. But in our case, we're gonna focus on SQL Server because this is the reason why we are here. So why should we care about AWS RDS services? When it comes to administration, it makes it easy. It's easy to deploy and maintain hardware, OS, DB software, and there's a tons of built-in monitoring tools. Not only that, it provides great performance and scalability. So that means you can scale computer and storage with few clicks. Minimum downtime for your application. It provides availability and durability. You have automatic multi-easy replication. You have automated backup. You have snapshot and failover. And then it gives you a secure and compliance services as well. What I mean by you have data encryptions, at rest, in transit, and district compliance and assurance program. So in general, this is what is RDS. So what kind of services? For example, what are the deployment options? There's a tons of options. The first one, which is the default deployment, it comes with two flavors, as you can see here. The first one is RDS, and the second one is RDS custom. Amazon RDS option, which is the first one, it's a great option if your application does not have any dependencies that is related to OS access. Or for example, if you need kind of, if you want to access OS, you want to customize your application, or if your application rely on a third-party software. So I mean, you may need to do some complex operation at the OS level that you cannot choose AWS RDS because it won't allow you. However, if your application rely to third party, where, for example, SharePoint, where you will need to go, customize the OS physically RDP to the server, that's when you have to think of RDS custom. Okay, so after there's another deployment process that called hybrid. The hybrid options make it very interesting, especially when it comes to data residency. It comes with two flavors. It comes with RDS on VMware, and then RDS on Outpost. The VMware, it's amazing. It gives you, when it comes to data residency, it's a great option, right? So you have to use it. What I mean by data residency is that there are some law, some application, because of people information, the data have to reside on your own data center. So you can have AWS RDS deploy on your own data center. That's gonna resolve it. And then when you deploy it on your own data center, you will get better latency as well. Okay. However, if your application or your processes, for example, are very sensitive to network and this latency, such as trading or brokerage, like security and food application that require a quick response times, I would highly suggest you to think of RDS on Outpost. RDS on Outpost comes with two flavors as well. It comes with Outpost servers, where AWS ship to you a server. That server have everything that AWS needed, and you are as well. So what happened? That will solve data residency and it will give you better latency. However, if you want to extend, for example, your data center as one of the AWS region, you can think of Outpost rack. Outpost rack, for example, let me show you the difference. So this way you can see them. If you're looking at Outpost server comes with two type of servers. It comes with 1U and then it comes with 2U. However, for Outpost rack, you can see you have, for example, a complete rack. You can extend that as an AWS region. You can have all your data there, but you have to think of this. This require a bit of space. As you can see, if you do not have, for example, a big data center, you may think of Outpost server, which is the same. But if you have a tons of critical application, each of them require a new server. So Outpost Rack might be better for you because you have a chance to extend it as one of your AWS region. And then what are when it comes to installing or deploying SQL Server, okay, provision SQL Server, there are two options. You can have, for example, you can have it on EC2, where AWS maintain the network, the power, install OS and maintain OS, and the patching is on you to install the database software. It's on you patching the database software, and then backup, high availability scaling. And each one of these require a different scale. You can see money involved, time consuming and everything, which is normally our old way. When we have our own data center, we have a VM or physical server. The only thing, we don't maintain the hardware and OS. That's the only thing. When it comes to AWS RDS, it is different. It is, as you can see right here, it is a managed instance. Here, it is a customer manage. They manage everything for you. So you only have time to focus on what's matter. You have time to focus, for example, on business. You have time to focus on performance, architecture. You have time to focus on schema optimization. And then and you also have time to learn new stuff, which is something I really like to do. When should you choose EC2 versus RDS? If you're looking at for EC2, you can, both of them have license included, but if you want to bring your own license, it is not available on RDS, as you can see here. If you want full control of the instance, it is not available, as you can see here. If you want automated backup, you want manage multi-easy deployment, you need manage a multi-scale out, you need automated ability to scale computer and storage. That's when you have to think of RDS. So now, what are, for example, what kind of features are available? There's a tons. We have accelerated database recovery, intelligent query processing, intelligent performance feature, reusable index rebuild. We have reporting services, analysis services, integration services. They also supported, for example, Microsoft Distributed Transaction Coordinator. So that's a good thing. And then you can back up to S3. What I like about that, and before, if your backup go beyond 5 gig, it would be kind of impossible. Well, 5 gigabyte, not meant to say sorry. It would be kind of impossible to back up to S3 because S3 have a limitation of each object has to be the maximum size of each object has to be 5 gigabyte. So if you, because of the split options, you can split it into multiple files that will not only speed up your backup process, but that will allow you to bypass the limitation of AWS S3 object size. You can integrate Active Directory, and then there's database mail that are supported as well. So now, when it comes to production deployment, guys, what I have seen people done, they go with experience. They go with knowledge, and they go with, for example, what they want to do instead of the follow the business requirement and the application core functionality. Because whenever you are building any kind of application, it would be best to repeat this step, what I'm about to tell you now. This is based on my experience. I have done a ton of mistakes, and I said it would be best to do that for production. That's why I put production here. Cloud production deployment prerequisite, but normally that would be done at the initial stage. you need to request information from business. You need to know, for example, what business want to achieve. What I mean by, you need to, know, should you focus on cost or should you focus on availability and performance? You need to know, for example, the customer location, because any services you have to deploy, they will ask you for the region. And the reason why they ask you for the region, because they want to bypass the limitation, latency, I meant to say. If you if you choose the wrong region, and guess what happened? You may end up to face some performance issue, even though if you well tune your process, I guarantee you, you may end up to face some latency issue. Not only that, if you know the customer location, at least 60 to 70%, it will allow you to select the collation, because you can change the collation after you provision a database. And then it's allow you to select the right time zone, because you cannot change the time zone. And doing the Windows maintenance, you won't have your service to be down if you have a single availability, because of you selecting the wrong time zone and the wrong region. So these are the things that I want you to understand. And then also you need to know how sensitive is that data, because sometimes the data have to be reside in Europe. The data should not go outside of Europe, outside of Asia, outside of Africa, outside of USA. The data should not go outside. So that's when you need to know, am I violating law? Because if you build a well architect environment and then you violate the law, the government will run after that company. You understand? So, and then let's say if the data does not matter, you also have to know the type of encryptions. It may not have people sensitive information. Data residency may not be an issue, but there might be information you should be matter. Should we encrypt that data? Should we use encryption in transit at rest? What should we use? Okay, and then also you have to think of the recovery time objective and point objective. So how much data can we, for example, afford to lose? How much downtime? And then if costs matter, that's where you're gonna tell business if availability and data loss matter, cost will impact, just for your information. And then also you have to know the backup retention, because I have worked with some application, the retention has to be 10 years. You're gonna have to come with a long-term backup, because in AWS, even Azure, that I'm familiar kind of well, I think I'm pretty sure they go up to 35 days. You need to understand that. And then you need to think of performance as well. You understand? And then the reason why I said you need to take off performance, because SQL Server support in region replica, which I'm about to demo very soon. And then once this is done, you collect all the information. That's when you're gonna sit with cloud engineer and architect team. As a data engineer, as a consultant, you need to understand okay, based on the information we collected from business, how should we create, for example, our environment? What I mean, what kind of VPC? Should we define our own VPC, or should we use anything that may already there? How sensitive is that data? Because the VPC stands for virtual private cloud. It's define the virtual networking environment for this instance. And after a database is created, you cannot change it unless if you doing it from, for example, a restore. So, and then what else? You have to think of the DB subnet. What I mean by the DB subnet is that it is defined, for example, what subnet and IP range DB and IP range the DB instance can use in your VPC. After that, what you have to understand, you have to think of the security group. The security group is very valuable. not only the cloud engineering team will let you know, the application team or functionality will tell you as well what port that you need to enable, because by default, all inbound calls are being blocked and all outbound calls are authorized. So you need to work with them and understand what port should you open. And then once this is done with the application core functionality, it will tell you how should you configure your parameter group. What I mean by parameter group, there are some features, if the application depend on it, that will force you to go and enable this feature. And then parameter groups it's exactly what we call SP configure. So if you want to enable or disable something, you think of SP configure. Some of them might require SQL Server to be rebooted, and some of them might require SQL Server not to be rebooted. So it's the same thing on AWS. You understand? And then the application core functionality also will define your options group. What I mean by options group, for example, guys, allow you to enable native backup SQL Server to S3. It allows you to enable, for example, TDE. It allows you to enable analysis services, integration services, reporting services. And this is the only way you can add and manage these features. Just for your information, if your application depends on SSIS, on analysis services, on integration, you have to think of option groups. Okay, so when you get all the informations, you have to identify business requirements, research solutions, you have to draw a proposal, you have to review and test your plan. The reason why I have this, everything is easy to click, to manage and deploy, but it's not easy at the end to re-architect it when you go to production. So that's why from day one, you have to involve everybody, business, application team, data engineering team, architect team must be on the same page. So let's consider we got all the information. We know what business want. We know, for example, we draw our architecture based on the application functionality. So now we log into AWS. We already have our account. So business say, I don't care about availability, and I don't care about, for example, failover, and I don't care about performance. All I need a backend storage. So you deploy this. If you're looking at here, the region is US East 1, which is the first step. That's not Virginia. If you're looking at the availability zone, we have a VPC, which defines your network. We have the private host zone. This is Route 53. And then we have the private subnet. So that's when we will architect our environment. Okay, so business happy. So they connect, we have a single endpoint. So business connect so guess what happened? Business happy, things going on well. So now doing the maintenance, they're facing some downtime, and then people are complaining. So they said, listen, as things getting better, and we didn't expect for business to grow that soon, and we are going up, we want to add high availability and disaster recovery. So because you provide them, business, application functionality, you give them not one or two proposals, but you give them at least three. One where cost was matter, one where performance matter, and one was where availability matter, because all of them matter. Okay, where one is cost is the number one priority, availability and performance, and then one where performance, availability and cost, and one was availability, performance, and cost. It's gonna be easy for you to do some research and review, because what I'm saying here live with you now may change after after I just said it. So you have to go do a small of research about, you said, okay, so now I know what I'm gonna do. You just go, you deploy your high availability. So if you're looking at here, we have always on behind the scene. It has to be SQL 2016. onward, if you're looking at to use always on, anything below, they're gonna use mirroring feature. It is synchronous commit, and you have automatic failover. You can clearly see the physical replica here, correct? And then you can see this is what we call multi-AZ deployment. That's what provides us the high availability. But one thing, as you can see, this is the primary cluster. This is the secondary cluster. There's one thing, guys. You can clearly see both endpoints are white. They are white. One is inactive, one is active. The primary is active, the secondary is inactive. So that's when there's no read traffic, as you can see. Because there's no read traffic, so now we resolve high availability and disaster recovery issue, but now performance impact. So basically say, listen, we are facing performance issue. How can we resolve it? So because again, the application is going to be very easy to tell the application team, let's redirect read from our primary cluster and let's have in region read endpoint replica, as you can see here. So in region read replica, as the name said, it has to be in the same region like we have in the primary cluster, as you can see here, right? So in region replica, doing a logical replica, so that's mean data may not be in sync. It is asynchronous. When you're looking at this, it is 2016 editions, and then it is you can go up to 5 replica, and then as I mentioned, it has to be in the same region as the primary cluster. The good thing of this, you can promote this. Let's say, so now business point to this. Okay, great. I business point to this, so things are going on well, but now they said it seems like the cost is too much. We want to go back to the way it is. You can promote this in region replica and then remove this. If you promote it, so guess what happened? This become a standalone. You cannot fail over to this, but you can promote it. So this is most likely when it comes to disaster recovery and high performance. No, this is not disaster recovery. Sorry about that. This is most likely related to high availability. When it comes to disaster recovery, you can have something like that. And the disaster recovery, for example, the main purpose is for disaster, to have an architecture like that. You can have a multi-region deployment. And the main purpose of multi-region deployment is for disaster recovery and local performance. As you can see, this is the primary region, secondary region, and they have a DMZ. I have a nice article that I want to share with you. Let me see if I have it here. Okay, if you're looking at this is the same architecture. Let me see. If you're looking at here, are you able to see my new screen? David, can you confirm?
Yep, that looks great.
Perfect. Yeah. If you're looking at here, this is the primary, this is the secondary, and then they use, for example, database migration services to do the initial sync, as you can see here. Okay. So, and then once the initial sync is done, so what happened? The DMS replication flow will maintain the transaction log because they enable CDC. You guys, I'm going to share this with you. But what I want you to understand is the limitation. The limitation is what people most likely don't read. This is not a multi-master. This is a disaster recovery. If you, it support write activity. You can write, but the thing is, you cannot consider this as a multi-master. AWS recommend to just use it to just read data only. Right, and then during the initial sync, you have all your objects being replicated. Anything that created new, you have to go and replicate it directly to to the secondary side because it will not replicate. Just for your information, if you want to do anything related to multi-site, multi-region deployment, you can achieve the same thing if you are using failover cluster instance. I'm not gonna sit with this. I just added in case if you guys wonder, but you know, I have never done it. I did some research. I have a tons of link to share with you. So that's mean if you want to learn more about this, I'll be happy. You know, you can email me and I'll be happy if I cannot answer that question, and I'll be happy to reach out to one of my peers to help you out. So when it comes to SQL Server, RPO and RTO, there's something that you need to know because business only care about saving money most of the time. But the downside is when real issue occur, business forget that they told you you have to prioritize costs. But knowing this basic information will allow you to work with business much better. If cost does not matter, there is a way you can have zero data loss. As you can see, this is potential data loss. You can use AWS multi-AZ to prevent data loss. But the downtime, there's nothing you can do, and that I'm about to show you. Okay, it is between 1 to 2 minutes. It doesn't matter what any kind of architecture you build, there will always have the downtime is part of it as well. So you need to put that in your plan. It doesn't matter how well you think. And then, yeah, so if you use a replica, read replica promotion in region, there's gonna be minutes of data loss. And then the downtime is less than 5 minutes. If you're using point in time recovery in region using automated backup, you have about 5 minutes of data loss, but you have minutes or hours of downtime. If you use, for example, point in time recovery cross region, you and using automated backup, you have between 6 to 20 minutes. Okay, and then you have minutes to hours of downtime. If you're using snapshot, which is the cheapest way, and I have seen tons of people using it, you have hours of data loss. You have to understand and make business aware of that. If cost matter, this is it. And then the downtime could be minutes and hours, just for your information. Here's the thing, if you're using failover cluster, and then this is a screenshot that I took this from AWS reInvent. Okay, while I was watching this, preparing this session, there's something called time to reconnect, and it is measured in seconds. If you are using MIWA, always on MIWA primary DNS, and then always on primary DNS, and always on listener. If you issue a manual failover, you have up to 70 seconds time to reconnect. Up to 70 seconds, just put that, it's more than a minute. If you're using primary DNS, you have up to 40 seconds of time to reconnect. And if you are using listener, you have up to 7 seconds. So that's mean it doesn't matter how well you architect your environment, you need to discuss the downtime with business. There's ways we can prevent the data loss, but expect one day we may get downtime as well. So business have to understand, and this is not something that come from you, it is white and black from AWS website. You understand? And then if you use for primary SQL Server crash, if the primary SQL Server crash, time to reconnect for primary DNS and for MIWA and always on, it is up to 40 seconds. As you can see, for listener, you have up to 9 seconds. If the network, if primary server network, there's any disconnection, you have up to 110 seconds to reconnect for both MIWA and always on with primary DNS. For listener, you have 35. But guess what happened? What I like to mention is that the crash recovery time not included. So it might be more than whatever you're saying this. That's why the recommendation within your connection string is to set multi-subnet failover is equal to true. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, this is not supported for SQL Server yet, guys. There's something called AWS Proxy that provides seamless and faster failover. What I like about Proxy maintains the database connection between transaction with multiplexing, right? And then it's preserved for doing failover. Let's say if there is a downtime, it's prevent that, okay? And it's able and smart enough to quickly detect there is a failover and quickly connect to the standby server. It will bypass the DNS task. It's provider up to 66% faster failover time. So what I mean by, if you're looking at this guy, this is the proxy. This is the application. You connect your application here. It's gonna go, and the proxy is smart enough to know where to write that data. So let's say if this is down, the proxy is smart enough to go and do that. And then if you have an application that does not connect any connection, like I have seen where so many connection overloaded, impact the database performance, with Proxy, you don't have to worry about that. So if I have any open transaction here, connection here, if that connection is available, application to come to connect, instead of creating a new connection, the proxy is smart enough to allow that application to connect as long as it is safe. It is very useful for session state detection and performance. So whenever this is available, put that on your watch list. If you have SQL Server on AWS, whenever this is available, it would be way more efficient to have your application connect to a proxy instead of your application directly connect to your endpoint. So now, the kind of confusion I have seen people cannot really make the difference is that between multi-AZ and multi-region deployment. When it comes to multi-AZ, you have to think of high availability. When it comes to multi-region, you have to think of disaster recovery and local performance. Put that in your mind. When it comes to read replica, you have to think of scalability. I'm gonna share this with you. You guys can go and read it. However, let me move to that. Let's go to the demo. Give me a second. Let's go to the demo. Perfect. If we look at here, when you log into AWS, so this is the new view they have. They give you access to quickly see where your money are spending. In our case, we're gonna come here. We're gonna look for database. This is the database. That's the database they are offering. In our case, it's gonna be for RDS. We can type it as well. If we type RDS, we're gonna get the same thing as well, as you can see. So if I click on RDS, I'm gonna get this page. That's the page that's gonna open. When we connect, this is the dashboard. If I wanna know all my database that already provisions, that when I'm gonna think of databases. If I click on databases, it will give me, all identifiers. It's gonna take a second. I'm not sure why it's taking that long. Let's see, come on. If you're looking at here, you can see the instance name called Cloud Data Driven. You can see the region. You can see, for example, the size. The size tells, for example, how much memory And CPU, that's the instance size. You can see the start sheet, the CPU and everything. So if I want to modify this, I'm going to click on modify. If I want to take a snap and stop my service, reboot it, delete it, take a snapshot, do a point, restore to a point in time, I can do that. I can even restore a new instance for me, backup that located from S3 bucket. I can create a new database. I can look at the performance here. As you can see, this is the snapshot. If I want to see all kind of snapshots available, this is it. Okay. And then if you're looking at here, I can take a look. For some reason, it's taking very long. Let's see. You can see all kind of snapshots. I can see all my automated backup there. This is if I have a reserve instance, it's gonna tell me the reserve instance is very useful if you wanna save money. This is my proxy. This is my subnet group. For example, the one we just spoke about. This is my parameter groups. If you're looking at, if I click on parameter groups and I click here, you will clearly see, for example, this is the place that you will get familiar to that interface. For example, this is the parameter groups. So if I want to know, for example, anything about memory, all I have to say is type memory. You can see max memory, maintain it dynamically. You can clearly see. If I want to see anything about parallelisms, I can click on it. You can see max degree of parallelism. You can see cost ratio. If I want to, let's say, if I want to change this, you can see the value is default. They still have. And then this presentation is not related to performance. You can clearly see this is too low. For production, I would highly suggest to increase this between 25 to 30. For data warehouse, I would highly suggest to bring this up between 50 to 70. And then because this is at the instance level, and now we have access to control this at the database level. So you can clearly see, so there's so many things we can do here. But when you go to the parameter, which is what called SP configure, so you have to think, you have to make sure you pay attention to two fields, the value and the modifiable. The modifiable, if it's too true, guess what happened? You will be able to modify. If it's false, for example, let me check CLR. If you're looking at CLR, you will see the CLR is false, so that's when I cannot modify this. There's nothing that I can do, but this I can modify. The options group, if you're looking at the options group, the options group is totally different. It is the one that will allow you to enable SQL Server, but depend on the version. If you're using Web Edition and Express Edition, not all these features are available. For example, let me show you. If I have, this is Express Edition. Let me show you. No, I think this is Enterprise Edition. Let me go back one more time. But this is taking a little bit of time. While this is loading, let me work on that creation. If you want to create a database, okay, but okay, I'm very happy I have this. If I click on add options, check what will happen. If I click on add options, the options group is the one that will allow me to enable some of the features. If you're looking at here, these are all the features that I have for enterprise. As you can see, that's where I can enable database audit on the options group. If I want to enable backup, analysis, integration, reporting services, and I want to enable transparent data encryptions. If I want to enable MSDTC, that's the options group. If I select, for example, Express Editions, you won't see that kind of options. You're gonna see probably 3, if I'm not mistaken, S3. Let me show you. If I go on Express Edition, just give it a second. If I say, for example, add options here, it's all you see, for example, there's only 2 options. But there's 3 because I already enable one. There's backup to S3, there's MSDTC, and then there's SQL Server audit. For Express and Web Edition, that's the 3 you get. If I go back, you will see the backup to S3 that I have for S3. For the Express Edition. And then if you have custom availability zone, this is where you can maintain it. You have custom engine version. If you want to see all kind of events that is happening on top of your RDS instance, this is where you're going to click and see. It might take a second. As you can see, I can clearly see everything, okay? So before I go to monitoring and everything, when you click on database creation from dashboard, if you're looking at dashboard, let's say when you log in, let me show you. When you click here, it will redirect you to here. These are all services that are available. For SQL Server, this is exactly what I was saying. You have, for database management, you have 2, RDS and RDS custom. RDS is, if you do not need anything that require OS level access, you have to think of RDS. If you want to, if you have a third-party application that require you to customize Windows, install some of the third-party software, that's when you have to choose RDS custom. These are the edition, Express, Web, Standard, and Enterprise editions. So these are the version. The version vary based on the edition, just for your information. For some reason, this is taking, sometimes this is it, right? And then you have to put the database name. This is the instance identifier. And then you have to, you know, come up with a nice way to name your login. And then if you want AWS to auto-generate a password, they give you that options. This is the master password. In RDS, you don't have 100% access on the instance. At the instance level, the admin will give you kind of access, not really all. And then, so this is the instance type. And the instance type, if you're looking at here, depending on the version, you may get more. If you're looking at here, I'm using, for example, Express. If I change this, I don't know how long it's gonna take, but if I change this to standard, you will see the instance type change, because the instance size or type define your VM capacity, like how many CPU, how many memory. Do you understand? So if you're looking at here, let's go down a little bit. For some reason, my computer is a little bit slow. For standard edition, they don't have free edition, as you can see. They have production and dev. Okay, so this is the same thing. If you're looking at, this is the DB instance class. D5, for example, we have memory optimized classes. If your application requires a lot of memory, so you can choose that type. If your application it's kind of a normal workload, that's when you have to think of boss, stable, classic. If you look, if I click me on it, depending on the instance class that I selected, you will see the size of the VM vary. That's 8 vCPU, 32 gig. And then if I click here, you will clearly see there's gonna be some of the instance type that are highly that have high memory. Like if you're looking at 256 memory, okay, and then if you're looking at here, and then you're looking at here, and then so if you based on your what you have been documented and the workload and the business application architecture, that's what will define you, for example, what to select. And then for the storage, they have 3 types of storage. They have general purpose, they have provision IAPS and magnetic. I don't think for production you will ever think of this, but if your application need, you know, depend on you know, require low latency, provision IAPS will be best for you. And this is the storage that you want to allocate. So if you know your storage, for example, if your database is 500 gigabyte, I would allocate like 1 terabyte. And then what I like about this, right, you can, for example, set up auto scaling, right? But what I mean by anytime when days ago if your database is like 80% full, what happened? The auto scaling will go and increase that volume for you. And then if you want to enable multi-AZ deployment, or you see for production, it was enabled by default. This is it. This is where the connectivity comes in. Like I said, you have to create your own VPC, because for production, you don't want to use the default one, because once you create it, you cannot change it. And it's clearly mentioned that you can't change it. You have the application functionality is the one that will let you know, for example, what kind of feature you have to enable, what options group you have to take, and then should it be public or private. For it will, in our case, it has to be private if we're dealing with sensitive data. And then this is the security group. So, and then you're gonna go and get your security group. This is what I have created for my demo. We can go and select it. So if you want any minor, if you want, for example, Windows authentication, you can enable it there. There's some additional configuration that you can get there. Like for example, the options group, the parameter groups, what you want to do, the options group. I have it for enterprise edition. That's why you don't see it here. I did not have it for standard edition. If I check enterprise or express, you will see it. And then let's say if I have, I did create that options group. So it's visible for any, for this version. As you can see, it is a standard SE, which is standard edition. You just select it. Let's say if you want analysis services, you have to enable that options. This is where what I was saying. If you're looking at, they tell you the time zone and the collection. If your application requires specific collection, you can do it here. And then for long-term backup retention, you can clearly see we can go, for example, when it comes to retention, we can go up to 35 days. You cannot go beyond of 35 days. So let's say if you want long-term backup retention, you're gonna have to come up with a strategy to do that. Knowing where your 60 to 70% of application will let you select the best windows for the maintenance. Because when it comes for automated backup and maintenance as well, as you can see, it would be best to select the time yourself. Do not leave it no preference like I have seen people done, because the time they're gonna select for you may not be the time you want to select. For retention, You can create long-term retention up to 2 years, as you can see. Yep, and then if you want to use encryptions, the default one, you want to bring yours, you can enter your own. And guess what? You cannot change this after enable performance inside. Just put that in your mind. If you enable this, after you enable performance inside, you cannot change it. So everything you have to do, you need to, all the warning, you have to be aware of that and understand. What I like everyone to do whenever you're deploying it, always check this. Because if you check the error log, it will allow you also to set up some alert, like when a deadlock occur, you can go and get and being alerted. And then for the maintenance, if you want minor version upgrade to be automatic, they can maintain that for you. And if you want to maintain it on your own schedule, as you can see from here, if you have any recommendation, they're going to tell you. And then when you click on recommendation, that's when they're going to tell you what to do. You can schedule it, sorry, and you can dismiss it as well. So if you already aware there might be some bug, you can do that. Once you click create, and that's okay, and then you will see, for example, let me go to database. Once you say create, it's gonna go and the status will not be available. It's gonna be like creating, and then after that, it's gonna be modifying, restoring, and then once the restore is done, that's when it's gonna come back as available. So if I click on this, when it comes to monitoring, it makes it easy. What I mean by easy, let me show you. It's loading. If you're looking at here, I can take a look at all the connectivity information. I can clearly see my endpoint. I can clearly see the port, which I would highly suggest not to use 1433. I can see the availability, the VPC, the subnet. I can clearly see that it is public because I'm doing demo, it's just a demo, but in real life, it will not be public. I can see the kind of VPC that I'm using. I can take a look even further, understanding. I can see if I'm using many identity access management wall, which is what we call IAM. And then let's say when it comes to monitoring, let's say if I want to get information about CPU usage, swapping, memory, freeable, these kind of things, when you click on monitoring tab, it will go and display all this information. Give it a second, you will see. As you can see, I can see the CPU utilization, the DB connection. I can see the free storage space, the freeable memory, write IO, read IO. I can see it. I can clearly see it from here. But if you're looking at what I always suggest people to enable enhanced monitoring, if I click here and I click on enhanced monitoring, enhanced monitoring may not be give you the exact metrics like CloudWatch monitoring, because enhanced monitoring give you more information related to the host or OS level. For example, if I click here, you will see the view will kind of change because they're giving you a tons of data. So if you're looking at the available memory, I can clearly see it, the user, I can get all kind of information. If I need OS process information, I can clearly see in this. Let's say if there's if I'm troubleshooting anything related to performance, anything that just happening, and I cannot see any anything that related to the resources, I can go a little bit deeper and go with performance inside. And I have performance inside here. if you're looking at performance insight, sorry about that. How can I bring this? Yeah, if you're looking at, one second. Okay, this is CloudWatch, but let me go to Performance Insight. So if I open Performance Insight here, I thought that I opened that already for you. If I open it here and I select the DB that I want to analyze, I'll be able to see the query that is running, check what will happen. I can clearly see the wait start. Is it, you know, this one will get me all kind of information. I can take a look at top weights, SQL, host, the user, these are the query. You guys familiar? This is exactly just like soloing Dynatrace or Redgate tools, any kind of third-party tools, even like, so this is, this gives you the same insight. I can clearly see the kind of weight. You understand? I can change it as well. I can take a look at the users and everything, the query. Do you understand? There's so much insight you can get from this. For CloudWatch, what happened? If you're looking at here, if I go back to this one, I can quickly return here. Let me go to database instead. So if I go back to this one, for example, you will see CloudWatch as well. But we were seeing that give you all the CPU and everything instead of clicking me on it. So if you're looking at here, you can set up alarm. Let's say if I want to set up alarm, what I'm about to do is click on in alarm, let it load. It might take a second. Are there any questions, David?
Right now, we just have one, and it's more of a developer question, but is in-memory OLTP supported on Amazon RDS? And I was doing a little bit of searching. It doesn't look like it is, but I don't know if you were able to confirm that.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, no problem. I think I found a link here that says PMEM devices and in-memory OLTP support are not supported, but in-memory optimized TempDB metadata is supported. So I'll put that link in the chat window here.
Okay, no issue.
Cool.
If you want to create an alarm, you go to CloudWatch and then you say, for example, you say alarm, you're going to create that alarm, you're going to select the matrix that you want to do. If you're looking at the matrix that you want, in our case, we have to go with RDS. Let's click on RDS. I like it to be equals all database. Okay. And then I can go with CPU usage. Let's say if I want it, for example, for CPU utilization. Okay. So when I select this matrix, and I say select this matrix, let's say if I want the CPU, I want it, if the CPU stay more than 60 seconds, which is 1 minute, okay? If you're looking at here, this is just an average. So I want, for example, if the CPU stay more than 1 minute, this is where I'm gonna set up if it's greater or equal. If it's greater than 70%, 85%, if it stay more than 85%, if it's 85% and it stay constant more than 60 seconds, I want to trigger an alarm. I want to be aware. So if you have your own simple notification services set up already, you can use it as, for example, I have one. I call it demo alarm. And then you can add, you can see here more people and you can add them as well. And then if you're looking at here, if I say next, I'm gonna give like CPU spike above 85%. I can name it, and I said, for example, let me say CPU spike above 85%. You can give more detail, and then you say next. When you say next, it's gonna tell you to review it. Once you say review, for example, you say create, it's gonna go and create it. When I was creating this database, guys, if you're looking at, I enable this. Because I enable this, I tell AWS to send all the information to the log. Because of that, I must be able to create some alarm related, for example, to deadlock. To do that, you cannot think here. You have to think of log groups. The log groups is the one that will allow you to do that. Okay. Yeah, my system is a little bit slow. I hope you guys forgive me for that. Yeah, it is a little bit slow, but I think you guys get the point. You can do some research and then doing it, because I have some example show you how to do backups and everything. So let's say that we connect to the instance, we can get some information. For example, if we know what we created. So if you're looking at here, I can execute this guy. It's gonna go and give me all this server configuration. I'm not sure if because I'm sharing my screen, it's a little bit slow. I should have run this and explain it, but this is a little bit slow. You guys are all SQL Server guys. You guys know this script. If it's a execute, good. If it's not, because I'm not sure, for example, why it's taking that long. David, am I running out of time?
We've got about another 20 minutes or so.
Okay, perfect. So let me, is it okay to be patient, correct, with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, no issue. I'm not sure if this is related because I'm sharing my screen. Okay, while this is doing this, why don't I go, I issue some backup. How can I hide this? Let me see. Let me run some backup. Like this here. Perfect. So, for example, let's go and run some backup, guys. If you're looking at here, for you to be able to back up to S3, you have to think of three things. First of all, you will need to have a bucket in S3. You will need to create an ARN role for SQL Server to be able to access S3. You will need to create an options group to enable SQL Server. Just give me 1 second, guys. Somebody knock on the door. Hold on while this is loading. Give me a second. And then also, sorry about that. Thank you. You will need to enable S3 backup to for SQL Server. Otherwise, SQL Server won't be able to back up. So to back up a database, this is the POC we are about to use. That's the POC. You have to provide the database name. You have to provide the AWS resource name that need to be backed up, where your file will be reside, which is S3 file key. And then if you want to encrypt it, you can encrypt it. There are two types of backups. There's full and differential. Full is the default one, but if you want to make it differential, you have to pass that parameter, which is at type. And then it's always best to compress, for example, your S3 backup compression. So when you back up to S3, that file will be compressed. Okay. And then if you want to enable it, that's the process you have to enable it. That's the process you have to disable it. So let's see if I can query SQL Server, because I'm not sure if because I am if you're looking at here, we have, for example, this database, okay? So let me show you the bucket. This is the bucket. If you're looking at, we don't have any file here. Perfect. So if I go ahead and issue a backup, I'm about to issue a backup. This is the database name that I'm backing up. This is it. And then this is the location that I want to dump it. And this is today's date. If I issue this one, when I issue this, what happened, AWS behind the scene creating, for example, a task. It's gonna provide us that task ID if we want to find out the status of that task ID. That normally take 1 second. I'm not sure why my system is so slow. The system is very slow. I'm not sure. I'm sorry for that, guys, but let me walk you through this. This is the process that you have to use to issue the backup. So what happened when the backup is completed, if we refresh this, we will be able to see the file. If we want, for example, if we want, for example, to issue a differential backup, we have to mention differential. It is the same script as above, right? And I pull it that diff. Let's say if this is just the task ID, if you want to analyze it, it is still executing. Let me walk you through the script. If you want to split any backup file, this is how you can split it. So you just have to put that asterisk after you name your backup, and then you tell SQL Server the number of files you want to pass. If you want to create 5 files, you put 5. Let's say if you're doing this for performance, it's not because related to AWS S3 object size limitations, that's fine. But if you want to do it because of the object size limitation, because on AWS S3, any object cannot be larger than 5 terabytes. So if your database is 30 gigs, you're gonna take off 6. Let's say 8, because if your database is for example 25 gigs, terabyte, I mean to say, if your database is 25 terabyte, so you won't be able to do a single backup file. S3 will reject it. But if you split it into 5 or 6, you will be able to do that. And then to get the status of your process, you have to use this. Let me see if this got executed because it may showing me something. Let me see. So it didn't execute it, that's fine. But if you want to restore, guys, this is the command that you have to restore because the system is a little bit slow. That's the store procedure. You have to pass the database name, you pass the AWS resource name, where it has to, the system need to point form to restore that database, and then you have with recovery. As you can see, here I said with no recovery is equal to 1. So that's when the database will be accessible after the restore. And then if I wanna, for example, restore, if a database files that have multiple files, all I have to do is pass the first pattern and then dynamically pick up anything else, as you can see here. In case if we use RDS as a DR where we have our on-premises database, we may end up to push log file to S3 as I have it here, right? That log file, for example, we can push it and restore that log file to S3. When restoring it, we have to leave it in a non-recovery state where people won't be able to access it. In that case, you have to put with no recovery is equal to 1. With no recovery is equal to 1, people will not be able to access it. Once you're done restoring your full differential and log and you want to bring it back online, that's when you have to, for example, use the store procedure, which is RDS finish restore, which is that once you pass that, unfortunately, the system is very slow. We cannot demo it, but I'm going to share the script and I guarantee you guys should be able to do it. I already know this is a 4 to 6 hours workshop. And I know I would never be able to cover it into 90 minutes, but for your information, if you play with all the script that I'm about to share with you, you must be able to do it. Yeah, so this kind of script is like when you say restore database, the database name with recovery, where you bring it online for people, like where you bring it live for people to be able to access it. So if you can run trace file, you can run profiler client, you can do tons of stuff. These are the scripts that you guys can use on your own time. And then if you need information related to the server, is this completed? I'm not sure. Let me see. If you're looking at this is completed, it gave me the same information that I was showing you. This is how many memory I have, how many CPU I have. Yeah, like if you want to know in terms of information, like this is show configuration. It will show you everything that you can that is enable or disable. And then if you want to drop a database, that's what you have to use. If you want to shrink TempDB, they support that. If you want to rename a database, if you want, for example, to bring a database online, if you want, for example, to change database owner, you want to read the log file. This is the book that will allow you to read the log file. I did a tons of research and I saw a couple, website. I feel like that might be good for you as well, guys. I have it here. Let me go back to my slide deck. Okay, so if you're looking at for monitoring tools, we just went over that. The support SQL Server native tool, the support third-party vendor and free community tool, the support CloudWatch, which we just went over, enhanced monitoring, which is at OS level, the support performance insight, And then for best practices, guys, here's the thing. When it comes to VPC, you have to know you need to control your subnet. You need to control the AZ specificity. So what I mean by the DB subnet, the WAC table, the NACLs, you have to be able to maintain that. The second thing is you need to understand how should you restrict your traffic against your instance. That's where the security group comes in play. And then you have to understand the DB parameter group, the options group, and then also what kind of encryption. When it comes to encryption traffic, I would highly suggest you to force SLF because it is supported. Avoid using 1433. And then within your connection string, when it comes to disaster recovery and high availability, I would highly suggest you to set multi-subnet failover is equal to true. And then you have to enable SQL Server auditing. It is available. Why not use it? But you will need to come up with a better strategy. You understand when it comes to the data you are storing, there might be a cost, especially if your environment is very busy, but it's worth to have that. And then enable backup compressions. And then doing the migration, always shrink the log file before the backup. Because what I have seen is that people issue a backup from on-prem, they go to restore that backup, and the restore backup is done, even though from AWS side, they enable instance file initialization, but it will not apply against log file. So that's mean if the log file is very huge, it may take you hours to recover that log file. Make sure you shrink that. So you don't have, let's say if the log file is like 800 gigabyte, you don't want to bring that log file like that. And then leverage S3 bucket cross-region replication instead of cross-region backup copy, because cross-region backup copy takes so much time. If you leverage S3 backup cross-region, you're gonna save at least 70% of your time. And then it is quicker when it comes to synchronizations. But what I said, know your workload. What instance type class should you choose? Should you choose in-memory optimization? You have to think of R5, Z1Z, instance family. If my application will be most likely based on CPU, you have to think of CPU optimization. There's M5DB family. If this is a small workload where you don't have to worry too much, you have to think of T1 and T2 and T3 DB instance family. And then if this is like very large enterprise database where things kind of complicated, there's a mix of memory and CPU that require, you have to think of X1E family. And then as a bonus, design your environment based on business and application requirement. Do not go by experience and knowledge. What else I have? I would highly, I'll be happy if you guys can share your feedback with us. And that will allow me not only to improve my session and learn from you as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, everybody who is watching this either live or recorded on YouTube. For everybody that is missing this, will be up on YouTube soon. Jean's contact info is up on the screen there. If you have any questions, let him know. If you have any thoughts about future sessions or want to see him back with a new topic, let us know. We'd love to get him back. Awesome. So thank you all. I really appreciate you all watching this today, and we'll see you for the next one next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.